This episode of The Charity Show is brought to you by The Good Studio, creating great content for good causes. Hello and welcome. This is The Charity Show, the podcast made by charity people for charity people. Every episode, we take a look behind the curtain of the charity sector and meet the people who make it tick. Whether you're a veteran CEO, a fundraiser, charity comms professional, or volunteer, we want this show to be your one-stop shop for inspiration, advice, and forward thinking from people who are doing great things right now. And today we're talking about one of the most powerful and yet still underused tools in the fundraisers toolkit, match funding. How does it really work, and how can charities of all sizes benefit from it, and where do you start? If you're joining us for the first time, please hit follow on your usual podcast platform, and if you've been with us for a while, a 5-star rating would be fantastic. Right then, here's what's in store for episode 47. Today, Piers, is Sir David Attenborough's birthday. He is the President Emeritus of the Wildlife Trusts. He's President of Butterfly Conservation, Patron of World Land Trust, Patron of Learning Through Landscapes, Patron of Wildscreen, Vice President of the Conservation Volunteers, Vice President of Population Matters, Vice President of Fauna and Flora, Ambassador at WWF UK, Honorary Fellow Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust, and Honorary Fellow Royal Society of Biology. Those are the only ones those are the ones I can find.
Big GiveThe is a match funding charity, and what that means is we secure bigger chunks of funding from what we call champions. So that could be a trust and foundation, could be a high net worth individual, could be company, could be public funders. Of the 1,500 or so charities, 97% said that they were satisfied or very satisfied with the return. Yes, there is work involved, but charities will get out what they put into the campaign.
Welcome back to The Charity Show. I'm Piers Townley.
And I'm Tim Bainan, and we're squarely into May, Piers, already. The year seems to be whistling by very quickly. What have you been up to? I hear you've been wining and dining it with the rich and famous, is that right?
I kind of have, yeah. We had an amazing event for the brain tumour charity. It was called Sensora, which is a name we kind of came up with creatively with outside agencies that I must say were working with the charity. And it was a mixture of, which doesn't sound like a logical connection, but there is a connection, Michelin-starred chefs and cutting-edge dance music. So we had the DJ duo Bicep playing, supporting, alongside about six Michelin-starred chefs who were creating a course of like incredible food. Both sets of people had a connection to brain tumours. So one half of Bicep is Matt McBriar. He was diagnosed and is living with a brain tumour diagnosis. We supported him at the charity and he supports us. And then there were two brothers, James and Mark Tutuet. And Mark is a very renowned chef, London chef. And James and Mark have both fundraised for the brain tumour charity as well. They sadly lost both their parents to a glioblastoma brain tumour. So these connections were existing out there and they all came together. James and Mark, the two brothers, got together and said, right, we know Bicep, we're connected to this cause, we support this charity. And we had this evening of fine dining and DJs, and it was just superb. A load of work by so many different outside pro bono agencies and experts, as well as the charity teams internally as well. My hats go off to an events team, Tim. I don't know how they do it. There must be a million and one emails day and night to try and get these things to happen. But the brothers James and Mark really pulled all their contacts in, all the chefs and all the companies worked together. So yeah, it was a fantastic fundraising night. Hopefully going to be a bit of a legacy. Maybe it'll be an event that goes annual, but it was an incredible event to see from concept to actually being there. So yeah, I was along there on Tuesday night.
Oh, it's hard work, Piers.
My dancing shoes
hard
on.
Work. Someone's got to
do it. Tim.
Michelin star food and dancing. I'm hoping you got your dancing boots on, did you?
I didn't taste much of the food because obviously I'm working and I'm very professional at it, right. But I definitely did have a hands in the air moment with Andy and Matt from Bicep. I'm a massive fan of the group anyway. So way back when this concept was first put forward, my name was definitely going to be on the I'll volunteer, I'll help with that and see what the PR team and my PR role could do. Yeah, it was fantastic. Really unusual event, actually. Possibly, maybe, I don't know, the way events could be going in the future, matching up really unusual concepts, not your kind of run-of-the-mill kind of fundraising event. It requires a lot more inventive and creative ways of thinking, and it pulled off. It was
love that. Anything with a bit of 90s nostalgia and a bit of dance music in there. Big box, small box, big fish, little fish. Remember those? Yeah, dancing days. Yeah,
it was just getting down with the kids. I'm being bicep are great, but now every time I put the radio on or watch something, I can hear their music. So I'm kind of looking out.
Nice. Oh, well done. That sounds awesome. Not envious of your Michelin star food at all, as I tucked into my fish and chips the other night. Yeah, very good.
Well, the stuff had pizza, but it was good pizza.
Fair enough. Okay.
The guest had the Michelin stuff.
Okay.
Which was very fancy looking.
Excellent. Gosh, well, it's been a busy time for me and the Good Studio. Lots going on. But before I talk about that, I wanted to talk about the fact that today, Piers, is Sir David Attenborough's birthday. Whereas we're recording this today, it's his 100th birthday, and I think that's an amazing achievement. He's such an amazing individual, and everyone knows what he stands for and what he does. But I just had a look on LinkedIn earlier at the amazing contribution he obviously has made to charity over the years, and the list of charities of which he is involved. So check this out. He is the President Emeritus of the Wildlife Trusts. He's president of Butterfly Conservation, patron of World Land Trust, patron of Learning Through Landscapes, patron of Wildscreen, vice president of the Conservation Volunteers, vice president of Population Matters, vice president of Fauna and Flora, ambassador at WWF UK, honorary fellow Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust, and honorary fellow Royal Society of Biology. Those are the only ones I can find. I'm sure there are others probably that I'm not aware of, but what an amazing contribution he has made to charity and to conservation and to the work of that huge list of incredible charities. So yeah, amazing man, and 100 years old. Congratulations, Sir David. I think we just have to mention that today, don't we? Have to.
It's huge, though. You're right. It's huge in the third sector, the support that he gives to charities, and and the causes that he has championed, for across an incredible career. Spanning from his early days, in the BBC all the way through to owning the space. Really, if you think about kind of wildlife conservation or wildlife awareness, and some of those, Planet Earth and the Blue Planet and all of those, just incredible storytelling, incredible, exposure of all these amazing planet that we live on. Just great stuff.
I'll tell you what, take a look on LinkedIn, and anyone else listening, go and search on LinkedIn, put it into David Attenborough's name in the search bar to hit return, and just see how many people he's inspired. Incredible lists of people, posts from people who are working in the field of conservation now, and some of the charities that I've mentioned, all of whom say they've been inspired by him. So incredible the amount of lives he's impacted through his work over the years. So yeah, hats off to you, Sir David, and happy birthday. As for me, busy time at the Good Studio. Really looking forward actually to June, because I've been invited by the Chartered Institute of Fundraising to attend their fundraising convention in June, which is a fantastic 2-day event in central London. And I'm going to be working with them to record some stuff for their podcast, which is called Let's Talk Fundraising. Hope everybody's already listening to that one, but I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm going to be meeting some inspirational people and all kinds of organizations at the convention in June. So that's going to be great. And then something else I mentioned to you just before we recorded, and not strictly charity, but I'm slightly diversifying my income at the Good Studio by branching into audio biographies. Something that was inspired actually, Piers, by Martin Bisker, who came on to the show to tell us about Legacy, the amazing charitable organisation that he runs, recording veterans' stories before it's too late. And I thought that's something that perhaps I could look at doing something similar. So I've just launched, as part of the Good Studios offering, the concept of forever casts, I'm calling them, audio biographies for people. So if you're interested in recording someone's life, whether it's an older relative or someone whose story you'd like to capture, check out the Good Studio website and drop me a line. I'd love to help you. So that's just a little side hustle, if you like. But really, it's all about sort of using my journalistic abilities, if you can call them that, from over the years, and all that fact that I love interviewing, I love storytelling. You and I are journalists, peers. We've done it for our entire careers, and it's what really excites me and what I really enjoy. And on that note, of course, I'm always super keen to hear from charities about any help or support they need with case studies and storytelling as well. Really, such a vital part of the charity story. We talk about it all the time on this show, about the power of storytelling, and if there's anything I can do and the Good Studio can do to help you to share your stories, your organization's stories, the stories of your service users and beneficiaries, please do get in touch. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, brilliant idea, Tim. As we keep saying, it's the stories. Stories are the ones that matter.
Now, if you've ever thought about a match funding campaign and then sort of wondered, this sounds brilliant, but I'm not really sure we could pull it off, today's episode is for you.
Our guest is Alex Day, Managing Director of Big Give, the UK's largest digital match funding platform. Since 2008, Big Give has raised over £427 million for thousands of charities, and Alex has been at the helm of it since 2015.
Under Alex's leadership, the flagship Christmas Challenge has grown from raising £7 million for 258 charities in Alex's first year to a record-breaking £57 million in a single week in 2025. An incredible figure.
And more than half of the charities taking part have an income under £1 million, demonstrating that match funding isn't just something for the big players.
As ever, we're splitting our conversation with Alex across two parts, with some charity news in the middle. Part one, Alex explains how match funding actually works, what smaller charities need to have in place before they apply, and the one mistake he keeps seeing charities make.
Here's part one.
Alex, welcome to the Charity Show. Fantastic to see you. Thank you for joining us today. Now, listen, first off, I'd like to just dig a little bit into your background, if that's all right. You've spent your whole career in the non-profit world, as I understand. So tell me, what keeps pulling you back in? And give me a bit of an overview of your background. Whistle stop tour.
Yeah, great to be with you guys. And thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on the show. Yeah, what keeps pulling me back? I guess this sounds like super cliched, but I probably like a lot of people did a very generic education path, I guess, and did a very generic degree and didn't have huge amounts of direction sort of coming out of university in terms of exactly what I wanted to do. So I just took some time out after university to do a bit of traveling, and I guess kind of used that time to really reflect on what I wanted to spend my career doing. And I guess at some point on that sort of journey came to the realization that, probably one of the greatest things we spend our time doing in our lives is our work and our career. And I guess I wanted to kind of be able to look back on that career with pride, that it had an impact and that it meant something. And so I guess kind of fortunate to have that experience quite sort of early on in my life. But yeah, I've been really fortunate to work for some amazing organizations. I've been at the Big Give, 11 years now. It's crazy to say that out loud. But yeah, prior to that, a lot of time in the sort of non-profit, specifically sort of international development sector. So I had some amazing experiences there, and yeah, learned so much through those early stages of my career.
Not unusual to be a long-termer in charities. Piers, you've been along. How long? What are you clocking? What have you clocked up now at the Brain Tumor Charity?
I'm a veteran now. I was talking about this in the office. I've been at the Brain Tumor Charity now for 10 years.
Wow.
I don't look at it like that, weirdly. I know it's the conversation we were having earlier. When the COVID came, I feel like it's almost in two halves the last 10 years. It was such a kind of, especially in the third sector as well, it was such a tumultuous time, and it was for our charity as well. So I kind of look at it as two halves almost.
I guess I don't know whether anyone's ever done a study on retention in the charity sector versus other sectors. Maybe that could be a future podcast episode for you guys, but quite an interesting topic.
It is. I was in my last job for 10 years. If they find a job they love, they stay there. And that's unusual, I think, in the wider world, but it's quite common in this world, I think. Strange.
100%, yeah.
It might break down also to health charities. I've got a personal connection to brain tumours. A lot of my colleagues do have as well, especially the ones that have been there some time, and then across other charities. But yeah, Alex, deeper dive into that would be a great episode for us. So yes, you bounced back into the charity world. You made that your home, Alex, and you're right at the deep end of it now. So you're the MD of Big Give. For everyone who's not kind of associated with it or doesn't really know much about it, I know a lot of third sector people will know about it, but just looking in on it, could you just tell us roughly what it's about, the elevator pitch for the Big Give, and what the impact it has?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Piers. So Big GiveThe is a match funding charity. And what that means is we secure bigger chunks of funding from what we call champions. So that could be a trust and foundation, could be a high net worth individual, could be a company, could be public funders. And then we offer to match the sort of public donations, if you like, the retail donors, people giving their £10s, £50, £100, whatever it might be, to a cohort of charities that apply to take part in our match funding campaigns. And we run all of that on our platform. So it's all deployed through biggive.org. And we have these short, sharp bursts of fundraising where we offer to match these public donations that are made to these charities on our platform. And I guess the sort of headline finding this of what we know about match funding, and hopefully you can speak a bit to this from your experience at Brain Tumor Charity, but what we know is that more people give, and people give more when their donations are matched. And we've got sort of stacks of evidence to back that up. But what does that mean? More people give, so their likelihood of giving increases, and what they actually give also increases as well. We've got, as I said, lots of data that we can delve into about all of that. So it's a model that really works. We've been growing a lot, particularly over the last few years. People probably know us best for the Christmas Challenge, which is our annual sort of flagship campaign that runs every December. But we run other themed match funding campaigns throughout the year as well.
As you say, it's a really interesting model, Alex, and I think it's one that I think match funding as a whole can be something that sounds quite complex, but it's actually probably simpler than a lot of people might assume it to be. But having said that, it can still feel quite daunting for lots of people, for smaller charities especially, who maybe don't have the manpower and resources and the specialisms, if you like, amongst their teams to reach out to corporates and begin to establish those sort of relationships. Could you give us, for the sake of those small charities, just a quick overview really of what, at its heart, what match funding involves and what that model actually incorporates?
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I think I suppose firstly to reassure listeners that are sort of maybe involved as a staff or board or supporters of small charities is that there is absolutely a place for you within the match funding community, and specifically at the Big Give. So pretty consistently over the last few years, but anywhere between a half and 2/3 of our charities that participate in our campaigns have a turnover of under £1 million, which most people in the sector sort of classify as a small charity. I think, again, pretty consistently, the median turnover of charities on the Big Give platform is around the sort of £500,000 mark. So we have a kind of massive footprint, I guess, within the small charity community, and there is definitely something here for you. I think we often get asked as well, Tim, in terms of what's the secret to success on the Big Give platform, or what makes a successful campaign. And I think a lot of people asking that question assume, well, it's the sort of massive charities with their kind of tens, hundreds of thousands of people on their database that they can contact. And I guess it really depends on how you measure success, right? But for us, charities being successful is hitting their targets in our campaigns, which they set themselves. And for us, it's not about size. We don't see any sort of success in hitting target on size. It's about the kind of the work that goes on behind the scenes. And whether you're a kind of a small or large charity, there is, it's not like a grant application, whether it's like a binary outcome at the end. It's either a yes or a no. There is work involved in Big Give campaigns, other match funding campaigns, that you do have to put in the work to get your supporters to donate. But we definitely find out that what charities commit, they get out and then some as well in terms of the outcomes of the campaign, which I'm sure we'll delve into a bit more detail. But yeah, I suppose main message there, Tim, is just really reassuring that we've got a lot of small charities that do participate in our campaigns. And yeah, again, just sort of would signpost people to come and check out the website biggive.org. There's lots of case studies on there, including lots of case studies from smaller charities that have had great experiences and done amazing things on Big Give platforms. So yeah, it's not just for the big boys.
Can I ask as well how it works from the other side? Obviously, we look at it inevitably from the charities side. How does it work from the corporate side in terms of what's in it for them and so on?
Yeah, that's again a good question, Tim. I think we work with a really wide range of funders who provide match funding through the Big Give platform. So that can be sort of people putting 5, 6, 7-figure sums of money. So they're significant donors, and we bucket them up generally into sort of 4 buckets. So we have high net worth individuals or families as the first bucket. Second is the kind of more traditional trusts and foundations, perhaps the endowed foundations. Third is the corporate sector. So that could be a corporate foundation or corporate giving directly. And then our fourth bucket is the sort of public funders. So that could be local or central government. And we work across all of those sort of four audiences. I guess to come back to that question of why do they engage with the Big Give? Well, I suppose first and foremost, what they love is the multiplier effect, the fact that they can get sort of more bang for their buck in terms of a cause areas that that they are passionate about. And linked to that, which I kind of just referenced, is that we give our funders the choice of where their money goes. So they will usually ring fence their funding for a specific cohort of charities that are participating in our campaign. So if I take our Christmas challenge, for example, we work with the Waterloo Foundation. That's the founders of Admiral Insurance. They're really passionate about international development and particularly, water and sanitation and livelihood issues in predominantly East Africa. So charities that apply to our campaign that sort of fit that brief, we'll put them on a shortlist for our for the Waterloo Foundation, and they'll decide from that sort of pre-vetted cohort, where they would like their money to go. So the customization of it is something that they love. The fact that we can multiply their impact, and then thirdly, and to be completely honest, is that we do a lot of the heavy lifting for them. So we do the due diligence on the charities, we disperse the match funding for them, and I suppose particularly for certain audiences, that's really attractive. So I guess it's kind of similar to a donor advised fund offering that we have, is that we can do that sort of administration part for you, and particularly sort of individuals that might not have, wealthy families or individuals that might not have their own giving infrastructure set up, is that's quite an easy way for them to start or sort of accelerate their sort of philanthropic journey. So there are other reasons as well, some like the kind of promotion that comes with it. But first and foremost, I think it's around the, the multiplier, the kind of ease and the customization. I think final thing I would say on that, Tim, is that we, flipping back to the charity side of it, is that and it is hard to separate the two, right? But flipping back to the charity side of it is that what we measure our impact as Big Give on the outcomes of the campaigns for the organizations that take part. So we look at resilience, we look at skills, and we look at profile. So our theory is that if a charity takes part in one Big Give campaign, off the back of it, they will be more resilient. What does that mean? That means they've opened up new income streams or developed existing ones. So there's more income for the charity. Secondly, skills. They gain experience by participating in our campaigns, and they will be more equipped to go on and do effective fundraising, campaign planning, social media, etc. in future. And we provide a lot of support around all of that. And thirdly, profile is we're helping connect these organizations to new supporters, that putting them in the shop window, helping them to connect audiences that perhaps they might never have been able to connect with before. And so because we can demonstrate the impact in those three areas, and again, we've got lots of qual and quant data on all of that sort of stuff, is that our funders really like that sort of value add, that they could just be sort of making grants to the charities, but by doing it through match funding and through the Big Give, is that value add that we can offer is of benefit to charities that they care about. So yeah, there's lots of reasons, and we pull different levers depending on the audience that we're speaking to, but that's probably the kind of main points of why funders love working with us.
Yeah, and having worked on a few campaigns as part of the the wider Marcoms and the wider fundraising team, especially from the Brain Tumor Charity, it's a really fascinating, really fast-paced way of developing a campaign and working with the Big Give for the campaign. And our fundraisers, our supporters, absolutely love it when it comes around, Alex. It's a really interesting model, a really successful model, especially for us as well as others as well. So the winter campaign, the Christmas campaign, raised, I think about the figure, like 57 million in a single week. Does that size of sum, I mean, it's a headline sum, does that size of sum surprise you? Or are you used to it now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hell of a pat on the back.
It always surprises me, Piers. No, it's amazing. And it's, we're a campaign of many charities. So the Christmas campaign that you mentioned, 1,591 charities took part in that campaign. So behind each of those numbers, right, is a dedicated team of people plugging away, people like at the Brain Tumor Trust, getting the word out there to their supporters that they can donate and have their donation doubled. But yeah, I think ultimately it continues to surprise me, Piers, and maybe surprise is the wrong word, but amaze me and makes me super proud of the sector as a whole, because this is a collaborative effort. It's not just about Big Give. Yes, we provide the platform, the structures, but actually it's about bringing charities together at a moment in time. And this is what we love to see, is that I guess the naysayers of the charity sector often talk about, charities operating in silo or doing their own thing or not talking to each other. And I've been involved in charities that have been, as I said, kind of 11 years at Big Give, but prior to that in roles which included fundraising. So I get the challenge, right, of acting collaboratively, but not also wanting to sort of give up donor relationships or anything like that. And I suppose the beauty of the Big Give is that it brings those two things together, right? Is that all the charities come together, they're all using common language, common assets, common branding, but actually each of the individual charities had their own ring-fenced campaign within the Big Give umbrella. And so it's kind of the best of both worlds, I guess, for the charity sector, and that they can, they still have all of the control over their sort of donor data and all of that sort of stuff. So I think the thing that amazes me, and again, cliched, I know, but is that when the sector comes together, when we do collaborate, amazing things can happen. And there's no way that we would have raised £57 million in the Christmas campaign last year had it not been for that. It's like a snowball effect. The bigger it gets, the more people hear about it. The celebrities want to talk about it, and because they want to talk about it, then media agencies, PR, it all get involved. We do a lot of marketing around all of our campaigns, and then as a result of all of that, you get all this passing trade traffic that's coming onto the Big Give platform looking for people to donate to, with that offer of which we've already talked about, very compelling, match funding, buy one get one free sort of offer, is that people really buy into that. So I think I think it really does amaze me, and it's something that's, I think, obviously I am proud as the kind of MD of Big Give to be leading such a great org that has this impact, but also proud of all of our charity partners and supporters, that their generosity and their hard work is rewarded year on year. So yeah, it's great.
Well, that match funding element, which is the USP, if you like, is so understandable, isn't it? For supporters who've only just started to become part of the charity or our celebrities, it's a really straightforward sell. And when those campaigns come around, that sense of the sector all working together, and you can see all the content across the socials and the press pickup, everyone's sort of in this buzz, this frenzy of these campaigns. It is a marvelous thing to see.
And I don't know if you experienced this, Piers, from your own organisation as well. One thing we often hear back from charities that are taking part in the campaign is that it's the first time sometimes that different departments within charities have collaborated on a specific campaign. So it needs the marketing team, it needs the fundraising team, and actually it needs the volunteer team, because often they're putting messages out to their volunteers to sort of spread the word. So, we often hear that back from some charities. It's the first time we've collaborated across an organization on a specific campaign, and it's, trustees get involved. That it's a really sort of uniting campaign, not just across the sector, but often in organizations as well.
No, that's very true, actually. Every element of the charity, including our army of volunteers, or your volunteers, or your trustees, or your major donors, or your corporates, or, everyone can sort of get that buzz, and everyone sort of pulls together.
Alex, I just want to touch on, I totally agree, that figure of £57 million is an amazing achievement. Fantastic. But it does fly in the face a bit of I don't know if you saw the recent CAF report into giving, giving in the country. It painted a pretty bleak picture and didn't make for good reading for the sector. So how do you balance the two? What's your reaction to that report, and what's your reaction to Big Giv's performance in the wake of that report?
Yeah, I think... Yeah, it's stark and disappointing and understandable all at the same time, right? Like, I guess we all know the struggles that people, households, families, communities have been going through over the past few years, particularly with pressures on household budgets. And so the fact that charitable donations is decreasing is probably doesn't come as a surprise to a lot of people. I think in terms of, what I think is fair, Tim, what you've said around, Big Give seems to be bucking the trend when it comes to that. And I think that comes down to the power of match funding, is that it's such a compelling ask that perhaps that is something that provides the bit of the antidote to that. And we all know, people in the fundraising world, about how important a strong ask is, and telling the story and telling the narrative. And when you bring match funding in as part of that narrative, we know it can be really, really strong. I think we've seen, Tim, some elements of what you've described within the CAF giving report. So if we look at the number of average number of donors per charity in the Big Give campaigns, what we see is a slightly, probably not to the same extent of CAF, but we see a slightly declining number of average donors, but the average donation going up. So the kind of aligns with what the CAF giving report is saying, is that despite the overall number going up, the number of people giving is decreasing, is that charities are becoming increasingly reliant on a smaller pool of more generous donors. Is we've seen hints towards that, but probably not to the same extent as the CAF giving report. And we do, the average donation in our Big Give campaigns is probably exceptional compared to the CAF giving reports. In the Christmas challenge, for example, is £159 was the average donation giving in the campaign. So it does. What we know again about match funding is that it resonates particularly well with higher income donors. And again, we've got, for anyone that's interested in digging a bit more on that, in our resources section on our website, we've got a report that we commissioned back in 2016 now, so 10 years old, but still rings true, which is called A Great Match, and it's talking about the kind of psychology of match funding. And what that showed, we surveyed over 1,000 donors. Part of that is that as you move up the income brackets, the kind of the propensity to give via a matched campaign increases. So the wealthier the donor, the more likely they are to give to a matched campaign. So it can work. It's a campaign that works really well if you are sort of seeking to attract that sort of higher income donor. But yeah, I think, Tim, my reaction is probably like a lot of the sector, it's disappointing, understandable, but hopefully examples like the Big Give show that it's green. There are green shoots, and it's not all bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting you touched on psychology there. I'd love to know really in terms of whether it's a societal thing, in terms of the fact that when you go through times of hardship, like a cost of living crisis and all that kind of thing, whether it comes down to bang for buck, it comes down to the value of that pound. What are people getting in return for the pound that they give? And when that pound is effectively doubled, then maybe that isn't, as you say, maybe that alone is enough to convince people and make it as much of a different kind of a donation than a standard regular gift or whatever. So it's fascinating. It's sort of, there's some science to dig into that, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's true, Tim. But and obviously I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I wasn't reporting the virtues of match funding, right? But I guess there's also is about finding that connection with people, and like as great as match funding is it still all comes down to the connection to the cause. Because you've obviously talked about your own personal connection with brain tumor charity, and my personal theory is whether someone has taken the time to consider it or not, that every single person has a cause that they feel passionate about, an injustice that needs righting, or a connection that makes them feel fired up, is that there will be something for everyone. And it's just about us in the sector of connecting with those people, which is a massive skill, right? And shouldn't be underestimated. But that storytelling, that impact, purveying the impact is super, super important. So yes, match funding is great and it's a great tool, but I think ultimately it does come down to those connections.
Okay, time for a bit of charity news, Piers. And my story is one that's come from Charity Comms, our friends at Charity Comms, who we know very well. And they've told us through a recent survey that 1 in 3 charity communications professionals right now is feeling burned out, with the same proportion planning a career change in the next year. Now, Charity Comms' latest annual survey, as we just said, found that communications professionals' job satisfaction was lower at 48% at larger charities than at smaller organisations, where it's right up at 82%. In particular, staff at charities with more than 1,000 employees cited a lack of role definition as a key problem. People working at smaller charities of 1 to 10 employees praised visible impact and respected expertise as significant contributors to job satisfaction. Middle management and senior officer roles reported the lowest job satisfaction at just 40%, far below fundraisers, for example, which had the highest level at 72%, despite having the lowest annual salary. These roles often handle significant management stress and stretch resources without the salary compensation seen at the top levels of an organisation, is what Charity Comms said. Lack of training opportunities are also an issue. Some 63% of communications staff said that they had no training or development opportunities ahead of them in the next year. People with no training planned were more likely to think about a move compared to those who had some training planned. So all of this shows, Piers, that there's a huge amount of pressure on comms professionals. We've both come from charity comms backgrounds. You're currently still working in the charity comms role yourself. I've obviously, my career has been spent largely in charity comms. I can recognise a lot of this in terms of the pressures that are on charity comms teams. But it's really worrying to think that this has reached a stage now where, burnout has become a big issue and people are leaving the sector because of that, and not getting the opportunities and the support they need from senior leadership teams. What are your thoughts, Piers? Is it a real worry?
I think it is a real worry. I think it's always been a consideration, isn't it? I thought what was fascinating about the report is the discrepancy between the larger and the smaller organisations, and that feeling of maybe feeling lost in a larger organisation where the emphasis on the specifics of the roles are kind of lost in the general day-to-day running of an organisation. It's a fascinating report, but also a worrying report, and also a call, I think, there for management and organisations to address this and to make sure that the staff aren't feeling that is they're at the end of their tether in that particular role. It's quite a sad state of affairs, really, some of those figures.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a really important subject, and I think it's something we should dig into more on the show. So I think let's reach out to Charity Comms, maybe see if we can persuade a dealer Wardy to come back onto the show to chat about this, because I think it's such a really important conversation to be having. So watch this space and we'll see if we can get a dealer back on. What's your story this week, Piers?
And actually, this story that I've picked up on kind of lends to what you've just been speaking about, because this is a time of year, London Marathon time of the year, where everyone is, running at absolute full capacity. So hopefully that feeling of burnt out has not, carried on from the amazing organisation that all these charities have to do for London Marathon. And it's just been announced really recently that this was a record-breaking London Marathon this year. £87.5 million was raised for charities. The events organisers, as we say, have just announced. London Marathon Events, LME, revealed that this year's total has already surpassed last year's 87.3 million figure, which set a world record in itself for the biggest annual one-day fundraising event. Now, of the 87.5 million raised so far for this year's marathon, official fundraising platform Enthuse facilitated 42.2 million in donations, with another 43.7 million, huge numbers here, pledged through Just Giving. LME said that the final amount raised will be announced in September, but it's expected to surpass £90 million, which is just astronomical. It's just superb. Other fundraising data was collated from Cancer Research UK, Crowdfunder, GoFundMe, and GiveGain. And Hugh Brasher, who's the LME chief executive, said, quote, "The 2026 TCS London Marathon was an extraordinary day of world records, from the elite men and women running such extraordinary times to the participation numbers and now in the fundraising." Eddie Allenby, Enthuse general manager, praised the 22% year-on-year increase in funds raised through its platform amid a tough financial climate. He went on to say that at a time when finances are tight for many, the London Marathon continues to bring out the best in humanity and inspire charitable giving like no other event. And earlier this week, the 2027, next year's charity partner, was confirmed to be the National Autistic Society, the lead charity partner for next year's London Marathon, which is an incredible boost for that charity. You can imagine that's the gold standard of partnerships that any charity wants to get hold of. So just incredible numbers there, Tim, for what has become and has become for many years an iconic worldwide event, especially with rumours that we're also saying that next year's event could be over 2 days, which is probably going to be a massive headache for events teams, but a massive celebration for charities overall in the potential amount of participation and the amount of funds, the amount of awareness, and the amount of just joy and inspiration and support that comes from this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw as well that a record number of people have applied for next year's marathon. I think it's such a large number. I think it's 1.8% of the adult population of the UK has applied to run the London Marathon next year, which is incredible numbers. I'm one of them.
That is incredible.
I have put my hat in the.
You're one of them?
Yeah, I have applied. So
fantastic,
so we'll see.
Tim. I haven't. So let's hope. Fingers crossed for
I'm
you.
hoping it goes over 2 days. If it goes over 2 days, I've doubled my chance, hopefully, of getting in. So we'll see.
What, you mean you're going to try and do 2 days to do it?
Yeah, right. No, I think because the numbers are so huge and the number of actual places in the ballot is so low compared to the fact that, certainly compared to the number of people who've applied, your chances of actually getting in through the ballot are very, very, very slim, somewhere less than 1%. But I think it going over 2 days, that might go up to 2% chance of getting in. So anyway, we'll wait and see. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I'd love to run it again. Welcome back to our conversation with Alex Day from Big Give.
In part 1, we heard how match funding actually works and what smaller charities need to have in place to get started. We also got into the mistakes Alex keeps seeing charities make and what the ones who consistently hit their targets do differently.
In this second half, we turn to the bigger picture. Alex has a bold goal, raising £1 billion by 2030. What a goal that is. They're currently at £427 million. There's quite a long way to go. So we ask him, what does the path to £1 billion actually look like?
We also get into what the sector's current pressures feel like from the inside of Big Give, whether charities are coming to them more stretched than they used to be, and how the platform is evolving as the fundraising landscape shifts.
And we end with the one thing Alex wants any charity that's never considered Big Give to hear. So let's get back to the conversation. Just want to come back to the Christmas challenge, and as I understand it, and you mentioned it earlier on as well, more than half of the charities taking part have an income under £1 million, which is fantastic. We talk a lot on this show about the 95%, i.e. all those charities, the small charities that make up the vast majority of charities in this country. Tell us, for smaller charities that are thinking about applying for the first time, what do they need to have in place in order to do so?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tim. I think the main thing is just come with an openness and an attitude to, want to sort of invest in the campaign. And I think, that the kind of summary that I mentioned earlier is that you will get out what you put in to the campaign. It's not your typical fundraising ask, right? It's not like a grant application that you put in and it's success or failure. There is work that goes in. So I think that the main thing is coming in with that sort of openness that, that there is an investment required, but we, again, as part of that sort of impact reporting, we ask all of our charity partners, are you satisfied with the return on investment? And I think from Christmas Cat Challenge last year, I think of the 1,500 or so charities, 97% said that they were satisfied or very satisfied with the return. So yes, there is work involved, but again, what we see is that charities will get out what they put into the campaign. I think the other message, Tim, I'd want to reassure those smaller orgs is that there is a lot of hand-holding from Big Give as an organization along the journey. So we provide a lot of webinars, a lot of coaching, a lot of email support, templates, resources for those orgs to use. So it's not like we're expecting you to apply and then just get on with it yourselves. Is that there is this sort of ecosystem of support. We've introduced this really cool thing which has taken off over the last couple of years, where we do some like peer mentoring. So fundraisers or orgs that have been involved in the campaign for perhaps a number of years and have been really successful, they will sort of agree to mentor a smaller group of newer orgs or newer fundraisers in the campaign. And so there's lots of support on offer is my encouragement here. And yeah, I think I would really encourage your listeners to check it out and get involved.
Just going back to something you said earlier as well about the prospect and the mechanism of the Big Give being quite appealing to high income donors, Alex, what sort of mistakes, is there a common mistake you sort of see charities making when it comes to match funding or it comes to this sort of campaign? Is there some sort of one bit of advice you could give them to, whether it be, don't neglect your small supporters, don't neglect your major donors? Was there one thing that stands out? There's
probably not one thing, Piers. I think the main thing is doing that kind of planning as early as possible, because there is obviously, there's the match funding element of it, which is all kind of ring fenced for you as a charity. And coming into the campaign, how much match funding you've got dedicated for your charity. It's how am I going to raise the equivalent, right? So if I've got £10,000 in my match fund, where is that £10,000 going to come from? And we definitely see, and again, this is all a part of our impact reporting, that as part of the campaign, charities will secure new donors through participating. So you can kind of expect an element of you being able to pick up new supporters through taking part in the campaign. But you need to be thinking and planning about how am I going to raise that other the £10,000 in the public donations, and doing some, for orgs that are completely new to public fundraising, we've had those take part in our Big Give campaigns. And again, we provide that support around, what does your, people might think, well, I haven't got a CRM database and we've never sent an email out to our network before asking for money. This is completely new to us, is that we can provide the support to help you on that journey. And actually, again, the evidence would show that a match fund, if this is the first time that you're doing it, a match funding ask is probably a really compelling way to do that. So yeah, there's lots of support there. I think the other, so planning from an early stage and thinking through the sort of mechanics of it all and how you're going to raise that amount is worth considering. I think there are often things that happen in charities peers where, obviously if it's a smaller org, maybe their fundraiser, if they've only got one sole fundraiser, maybe they go off sick 2 or 3 weeks before the campaign. That can sometimes put a bit of a spanner in the works. So I guess having a contingency plan is always worthwhile as well. But I think, planning early is probably my biggest steer.
What about, Alex, those organisations that routinely smash it out of the park every year and blow their targets out of the water? What do they do differently? And what stands out for you in terms of those? Is it all about celebrity power? What is it? Tell us what they do.
I think we definitely see. We've got a kind of a growing cohort of charities that we work with each year, and some of us have been with us since very early days. And I guess they kind of built the Big Give calendar into their own sort of wider fundraising calendar, so that, I think the charity that raised the most in our Christmas challenge last year was a homeless charity in London called The Passage. You guys, I'm sure, might have heard of them. They've been with us since the early days. They raised over £600,000 in the campaign. So,
wow,
huge success. But they have been, they've been kind of nudging that number up year on year. So it does come from kind of building that experience and confidence as an organization. But we do see that, Tim. We see that, charities get more and more confident. And as I mentioned earlier, we run other campaigns throughout the year as well. So perhaps they bring in a second Big Give campaign into their calendar as they get more and more comfortable with how Big Give works. So I don't think that there's, a particular silver bullet that kind of probably answers your question in this is the secret ingredient. But I think over time and building organizational experience within the Big Give is probably the biggest thing I would track in terms of those orgs that do raise phenomenal amounts. But I would probably finish on that question with the point that I made earlier: is success for us at Big Give is not those necessarily. Obviously, it's great for orgs that like The Passage that raise huge amounts of money. Success for us is charities hitting their target, and £10,000 raised in a small org, which is unrestricted. We encourage all of our charities to consider raising funds unrestricted on Big Give platform, which we're completely on board with. £10,000 in a small org that's flexible funding, and as a result of that, you've now got maybe 5-10 new donors who probably get more on average than your other donors, and you can now steward them well and perhaps invite them to further events or things like that. Like that, for us, that's success. And so, yes, the big boys are great, but I think actually it's about helping everyone hit their target. That's our ultimate goal.
I think that's reassuring from a certainly from a sort of smaller charity perspective, that it's not necessarily marketing budget and star power. It's about organisation. It's about doing things in the right way and building things over time. So I think that's probably a good takeaway for those smaller charities.
100%.
And as we've been speaking as well, I mean, over 1,500 organisations. That's a lot of the third sector. That's a lot of the organisations out there. Staying with a bit of number crunching, Alex. You've said that you wanted to raise £1 billion by 2030.
Yeah.
You're currently at 427 million. Is that right? 427 million.
Yeah, so a little bit above that, but yeah. But we're 430 now, but yeah.
So an ambitious target. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of BHAGs. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before. Big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yeah, we have a load of those.
We set ourselves this target when we set our strategy, kind of 10-year strategy back in 2020, and that time is we were kind of so Big Give's been around since 2007. Maybe I can very briefly tell you the Big Give story and then how because I think that's helpful context. So Big Give was set up in 2007 by the entrepreneur and philanthropist Sir Alec Reed. So he founded the Reed recruitment business back in 1960. He always wanted to use his business as a force for good. One of the amazing steps that he made was that he made the Reed Foundation, so his own personal foundation, the single biggest shareholder of the Reed company. So they own just under 20% of the whole business. The rest is owned by various family members. And when he was stepping back from the business and sort of moving into retirement, he wanted to focus more on his philanthropy, but felt frustrated that there wasn't anywhere online where he, as someone who wanted to give potentially significant amounts of money away, could search for charities, see which projects they're doing and make a commitment of support. At that same time, the online part of the Reed business was really taking off. So this sort of marketplace between job seekers and employers. Sir Alec had the idea, could we create something similar for the charity philanthropy sector? So a marketplace between charity and philanthropy that brings that all together online. So he tested that idea amongst his friends. They all felt that that was a sort of gap in the market that could be filled. So he funded the build of the Big Give platform originally with that vision in mind. Unsurprisingly, loads of charities registered on the platform and some donations started to come through, but nothing that really matched Sir Alec's ambition. So to really try and kick things off, he decided later that year to put up £1 million of match funding for charities to apply for. And the deal was, look, anything that you raise on the platform, we will match it pound for pound. The model was slightly different in those days. So it was a shared pot, and that match funding pot ran out in 45 minutes. So Sir Alec and the team at the time realized there's something very compelling in this match funding offer. And to cut a long story short, that's what I suppose really the platform was the start, but really kind of started the Big Give journey was this foray into match funding. And that's obviously, as we've talked about a lot already, that's our USP. That's what we focus on now is, yes, we've got the platform, but actually it's the match funding that really makes Big Give tick. We were seeing, so back to your question, Peter, we were seeing, I guess, in the kind of late teens as this sort of growth in Big Give models. And we started to sort of really lean into the fact that, okay, we're just going to be focusing on match funding now. This is where our strategy lies. And what does that look like for the future? And we were kind of at that time growing roughly 20-25% year on year. And we were sort of asking ourselves, and I say we, sort of me as the exec and our board, asking ourselves the question, what would that look like if we sustained that growth? So that £1 billion target has come from our already sort of going up to 2020, a track record of growing a roughly or starting to grow at sort of 25% year on year. And if we continued that, obviously that it becomes a bigger number each year that we would hit that billion by 2030. And so pleasingly, from when we set that goal, we're on track. But as I said, that number gets harder and harder to get to grow each year because that number gets bigger. I think for us, it all comes back to that, the BHAG, right? It's a big, audacious goal. If we get to 900 million by 2030, no one's going to be disappointed. No one's losing their jobs. It's not like we're going to look back and think, well, we failed. 900 million is still an amazing target to hit. But I guess we use that figure as something that inspires our supporters, our philanthropists that we work with, our charities that we work with. Is ultimately the message we want to convey is we think there is legs in this Big Give model. We think that match funding really works, and we want to super scale it to a point where many, many more charities are raising many more pounds than they ordinarily would have through our platform and our campaigns. So yeah, I think that's probably at the heart of what we, why we set ourselves that goal. But ultimately, it's easy, and again, it's easy to talk about pounds and numbers and metrics and KPIs and statistics. But ultimately, what's behind all of that money is lives changed and more research done, or, more children fed, or more isolated older people visited. That's the thing that really matters. And that's the thing that really drives us as Big Give to sort of continue to want to scale. This is not for our own ego to get to that billion. It's £1 billion of impact. And that's what we really, really care about.
Yeah, such an important point to stress, isn't it? Because it's quite easy sometimes to look at those numbers and think about the numbers, but it's all lives changed at the end of the day, isn't it?
100%.
Alex, this has been amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Last question for you. If a charity is listening to this right now and they've never considered Big Give before, what's the one thing that you'd want them to take away from this conversation?
Visit biggive.org. Find out a bit more about us. Feel free to reach out if you've got any questions. I've got an amazing team who are really happy to hear from, connect with new charities. So please reach out to us, check us out, have a look at the website. There's lots of information about how to get involved in our campaigns. We have a wide range of campaigns. Christmas, we've talked about a lot about, but we have other campaigns. We have an arts campaign in March, which raised over 3 million this year. We're kicking off. I don't know when this goes out, guys, so sorry. But we have got in April, we've got our environmental campaign called Earth Raise, which we're hoping to raise over £10 million in total this year. We've got a campaign specifically for small charities, which we run in partnership with NCVO and Global's Make Some Noise for Small Charity Week in June. We have a women and girls focused campaign in October, and we have our flagship campaign in Christmas, as well as charities are more than welcome whenever they want to use our platform to run their own match funding campaigns. We don't get involved in providing the match for that, but again, I know Pierce Brain Tumor Charity have done that really successfully in the past. So you can use our infrastructure if you've got an event or a milestone or something that you want to celebrate, and maybe one of your biggest supporters is offering you match funding. You can use our infrastructure for free to run your own matched campaign. We're really delighted to support that as well. So sorry, Tim, that's a very long answer to your what you asked for a short question, right? Was visit biggive.org and find out more and connect with us. We'd love to hear from you.
And we will put all the links to everything you just mentioned in the show notes. So anybody who wants to find out more, head to the show notes. All the links will be there. But Alex, thank you so much for your time today. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Piers.
Thanks, Alex.
Now, we spend a lot of time on this show and always talking about and to experts and leaders from some of the UK's bigger organisations. But as we know, the real heart of the sector is found in the communities that are often overlooked and in a lot of the smaller charities.
So we want to give a platform to those smaller organisations, the ones running on trust, passion and very thin margins. This is the section where we move from the boardroom to the grassroots.
This is the Small Charity Spotlight. If you're a small team doing big things, we want to hear from you. Email us at thecharityshowpod@gmail.com. And first up from me this week, Piers, we heard from Laura Ann Mackay. Mackay, I hope I've pronounced that right, Laura Ann Mackay, who wants us to give a shout out for Love Oliver, a Scottish charity, she tells us, that started out as totally volunteer led by Jennifer and Andy Gill to raise funds for childhood cancer research and practical support for families affected by childhood cancer in Scotland. They continue to give funds, free cook meals, thermometers to families, work alongside Young Lives versus Cancer and the 3 Scottish hospitals that provide paediatric cancer care to provide toys and games and much more. They also have managed, in partnership with another fabulous small charity, Star for Harris, to establish the Howat Hub for families at the new Sick Kids in Edinburgh. Laura tells us they've supported several families that she knows while their child has been going through cancer treatment and even afterwards too. Laura tells us they're truly amazing in all they do. So thank you, Laura, for telling us about Love Oliver.
And from Scotland over to Bristol for me this week, Tim. And Richard Lobb has got in touch with us to talk about Hartcliffe City Farm. I love city farms. When we lived in London, we were regular with my 2 little ones to the Hackney City Farm. It was just an incredible thing. So to all the city farms rather out there up and down the country, a huge hats off to you. But Richard has got in touch about Hartcliffe City Farm, and he says that it's an amazing city farm that offers so much to the community that is in one of the most deprived economically, one of the most deprived places in the UK. After being really run down, it has now been revived over the past few years with amazing partnership work and become a charity in its own right once more last year, back in 2025. And as I said, city farms can be lifebloods of the communities in our cities. So hats off to that. And thank you, Richard, for championing Hartcliffe City Farm over in Bristol.
Fantastic. 2 more organisations proving that you don't need a big budget to make a big difference. And if there's a small charity you think deserves a moment in the spotlight, drop us a line. Details are in the show notes. And that's a wrap for episode 47. A huge thank you to Alex Day for pulling back the curtain on how Big Give works, and for the reminder that match funding really is accessible to all charities, big and small.
All the links to Big Give, the Christmas challenge, and everything Alex mentioned are going to be in the show notes. And if today's episode has you reconsidering how you're approaching your next campaign, we'd love to hear what you're going to do differently. Find us through the links in the show notes and let us know.
And don't forget to follow us on your podcast platform of choice so you don't miss the next episode. Until then, keep doing great things, and we'll see you next time on The Charity Show.